My name is Jake, welcome to the channel. If you watched my last video a couple of weeks ago where I talked about a new chapter, you know that my wife and I are moving up to Utah where I grew up. And so these last couple of weeks have been a little bit hectic for us. Been trying to pack everything with the move with, our boy Lucas. It's been kind of an interesting, experience. But after this video, I think here in August, we should be having everything up and running. Everything should be all set and I should be able to start making live videos again here in August. If you watched that last video, about a new chapter, you know that my wife and I are now, we've reached Barista F.I.R.E. Barista F.I.R.E. is kind of that middle ground where you're living off of your investments, but you're also working part-time to supplement the gap between your expenses and what your investments are paying. So it's been a really interesting and great experience, this transition from working full-time to reaching Barista F.I.R.E. Now, reaching financial independence and retire early can take many years. In the case of my wife and I, it took about 7 years in total to reach Barista F.I.R.E. And in some cases, for many people, it can take decades. You don't have to be a software engineer or a doctor with the highest income to reach F.I.R.E. fast. But, don't get me wrong, that definitely helps. But if you're just a normal run-of-the-mill person trying to buy your freedom, with, your dividend portfolio or anything in between, you need to be able to master the basics while still thinking outside of the box. Having just reached Barista F.I.R.E., I can say from personal experience that these 5 ways that we're going to talk about in today's video can really help the average person reach F.I.R.E. faster. So why would you want to retire faster? Well, there can be many reasons why you would want to reach F.I.R.E. as fast as possible. It could be due to a medical issue you're facing. Maybe you're unable to work. Or it could be that you really don't like your job or your career or your boss. It could also be that your coworkers are literal idiots and it looks a little like this.
Okay, why don't you come over here and look at my screen? There's liquid all over the screen. Can you guys see that? That's the worst thing that's happened to me in like 5 months. It's covered. I'm not joking. I'm so angry.
Look at Mark work hard while I do nothing.
Let's go, ricochet.
Oh my gosh, I would be so mad if I was that first guy. I probably would have jumped over and just strangled the dude. But I digress. Okay, so the very first one here, the first way to reach F.I.R.E. faster is you have to be able to master the basics. Now, this is going to sound a little bit like Dave Ramsey, but I want to focus on the basics. What are the basics? So the first thing is you want to make sure that you're staying out of debt, that you're spending less than you make, and you are looking to earn more money, right? You're looking to improve, your skills. Maybe you're investing in yourself to learn a new trade or a new skill so that you can demand a higher salary. And generally in the world today, the more value you provide, the more money you make, okay? And so, but mastering these basics of staying out of debt, spending less than you make, and trying to earn more money, that's the foundation. Okay. And then to build upon that, you want to make sure that you have a healthy emergency fund in case something unexpected happens. The worst thing that could ever happen is if you lose your job, you're unable to, find a new one and you have to tap into your dividend portfolio. Could you imagine that? That would be horrible. And so having an emergency fund, protecting your investments can be so important. The core of mastering the basics is being able to have your money work for you, not against you with interest payments. If you're paying somebody else, then you're not paying yourself. And that's really what you want to make sure that you have that foundation and that you're mastering the basics. And if you do that, you're one step closer to reaching F.I.R.E. faster. The second is to define what F.I.R.E. means for you personally. Now, this might sound a little bit odd, but everyone is in a different situation. If you're in Michigan and your expenses are $2,000 a month, you're going to have a very different lifestyle than maybe somebody that's on Long Island in New York, right? Or somebody that's in Silicon Valley or in LA. It's all relative, okay? So understanding what FIRE means for you personally, and also if you watch that other video that I made on, the different stages of FIRE, understanding the different stages of FIRE can really help you in understanding, well, what FIRE means for you. You could reach lean FIRE or coast FIRE much sooner than you could reach fat FIRE. So just as an example, maybe you don't want to work 20 years to reach fat FIRE, but rather you want to work 10 years, and then maybe you get a part-time job that you enjoy and go, enjoy barista FIRE. I read one of the comments on my previous video where the guy was saying, yeah, I really loved working at a grocery store earlier when I was younger. And so he would love to be able to work 2 or 3 days a week at a grocery store and still live off of his portfolio, but he's still generating income and he's still being busy. So the next thing here when it comes to defining FIRE personal, what it means for you personally, is learn what brings you happiness. Does spending money make you happy? Or do you not need to spend money to be happy? So that's really, really important of understanding who you are and where your happiness comes from. And then what comes with this is when you're thinking about this all, set goals that are attainable, but keep them simple and remain flexible should something in your life change. Say you're in your early 20s and you're planning to retire, in your early 30s. Are you baking in, the cost of living expenses or increases with having kids? Are you thinking about that? Are you thinking about healthcare? Are you thinking about all these other things? Just make sure that your plan is going to change, or your life is going to change, right? When you start this journey to reaching FIRE, unless you're a multimillionaire and it only takes you a year or two, if you're like the rest of us where it's going to take many years, bake into your equation that things are going to change in your life. The third way to retire faster is to learn how to hack your life. Now, that might not make sense to a lot of you, so let me explain what that means. When you think about hacking your life, there's many different ways that you can hack things, right? Make things a little bit better or easier for you, or kind of, maybe you're cutting a little bit of corners, but not entirely, right? You're taking a shortcut. So when it comes to hacking your life, there's a couple ways that you can look at this. So it comes down to, at its core, when we think about this, it comes down to keeping more money in your pocket at the end of the day, spending less. How can you get kind of a similar experience, but spend less? Okay. Now, a couple of things that come to mind is travel hacking, right? You could use credit cards to your advantage. Now, this is where the Dave Ramsey folks are going to hate me here. Credit cards, if used appropriately, can be a great way to hack, travel hacking. You're going to spend the money anyways. You might as well take advantage of those sign-up bonuses as an example. Another example is house hacking. Let's say you're a college student, or you're not going to college and, you want to start working earlier. You could buy a duplex, or you could buy a house or something in between, and you can rent out one of the sides, one of the units or one of your rooms. So you buy a house and, for example, my neighbor, he was a college student. He bought a house with like 5 rooms and he rented out 4 rooms. He was cash flowing more than his mortgage and his property tax. He was making money off of it. Really what it comes down to with house hacking is you're sacrificing comfort in the short term to improve your financial situation for the long term. The next way that you can look at this, and this is something that my wife and I have been personally exploring and trying out, and we absolutely love it, is there's a whole group of people out there that it's called the Buy Nothing Project. And they have Buy Nothing groups in every city across the US. And maybe I would assume across the globe, but in different areas of the world, but definitely here in the US, every major city is going to have a Buy Nothing group. And let's say you don't want to use Facebook for whatever reason, you could create a fake or a spoof account just so that you can get access to these groups. These groups are amazing. They give away stuff, right? And you give away stuff that maybe you don't need anymore. And it's really this whole idea of, paying for nothing. And really it's a win-win because you're not repurposing things. You're not, being wasteful. And so my wife and I, we've really, really enjoyed this. It's about going and buying things secondhand, right? Going and purchasing things used versus new. It's being able to go to a garage sale with a smile and excitement versus always going and buying something brand new. I'll give you a random example. So I mentioned that we're moving, right? And so we're going to be needing a new modem and router. And for the first time, I decided, I'm going to buy something refurbished versus new. And it was like $50 or $100 cheaper. I can't remember, but it was significantly cheaper. And I was so excited. I felt so weird because I bought something refurbished versus buying something new, and it made me actually feel good about it. So I really, really like that. And the last thing that I'll say when it comes to learn to hack your life is everyone out there has their own insecurities. Everyone out there has their own weaknesses. You also have your own strengths. It's easy to focus on your weaknesses. It's easy to focus on all the things that you're not good at. But if you focus on your strengths and you really focus on improving those and maximizing those, that's really where you're going to see this compound and where you're going to see this move the needle in terms of improving your financial situation. So focus on what you're good at and not so much on what you're not so good at. Maybe you can't sacrifice your comfort because you're just unable to do that given your personal situation. That's okay. Focus on maybe something else. Maybe there's another area that you can quote unquote hack your life. Okay. So there's many ways of looking at this, and it really comes down to figuring out a way that fits you and your lifestyle and your priorities. The fourth one here is to move to a lower cost of living area. Now, this can be within the United States or international. Now, a couple of things to consider here. When you're downsizing your life, let's say, for example, you go from, say you own a home that's 2,500 square feet. Let's say you go down to a 1,500 square feet. You're going to be paying less in property tax, less for the home itself, less in utility costs. You're really going to be decreasing your expenses, right? Let's say you're living in the city and you move, outside of the city. You're going to be driving a lot less. You're going to be spending a lot less money on car repairs, on gas. And so if you do want to retire early, it really comes down to a give and take, right? Maybe you're not going to have a pizza shop right across the street from you. Maybe you have to, go 10 minutes. So really what it comes down to with this is sacrificing with minor inconveniences with doing it yourself activities. Maybe instead of calling a handyman, you can maybe go and you could fix the faucet yourself. Maybe you can learn about something on YouTube and do it yourself. And speaking from experience, it makes you feel really, really good inside. Afterwards, you're like, yes, I did that. Right? Where before you had no idea how to do it. That's why the internet can be such a great, great asset for you. Another thing is to consider geo arbitrage, where you move to a new country with a lower cost of living. Say, for example, you have, $100 budget for something. That $100 is going to go a lot further in a lower cost of living area. Now, obviously, there's going to be a give and take. Maybe you have to learn a new language. Maybe you have to learn new customs, new norms, right? It's all about a give and take when it comes to moving to a lower cost of living. But I will say that there's a lot of other countries, if you're from the US, that may be interesting, right? There's countries that welcome expats where there already is a thriving expat community. A few that I've looked into personally are Panama, Portugal, and Costa Rica. Now, obviously, with my wife being from Germany and having lived there, I definitely have Germany on my list. German is obviously a little bit more of a difficult language if you don't speak it, but they have great incentives with healthcare. It's very clean, very safe. But, as an example, Panama, there's a thriving expat community in Panama. In fact, they cater to expats, give them special incentives to come and get a visa there, and to, it's a win-win. They inject the country with outside money, outside capital, and it lifts everything up. So there's a lot of ways that you can lower your cost of living by maybe, sacrificing a little bit of comfort. And that's really what it comes down to if you want to retire faster. The fifth one here is the harder that you work, the luckier you will be. I've learned in my career that most people don't give their full potential. Let's say you just give 10% more than what you're being asked, so you give 110%. I promise you that you're going to stand out and shine above others, because most people don't give 100%. And if you just give 10% more, you're going to stand out. You're going to get promoted. Your boss is going to love working with you. You're going to get you're going to be considered for future promotions. Now that's just with your job, right? Now imagine you apply that to other areas of your life, right? You give 10% more in obtaining a new skill or a new trade. There's really unlimited ideas and potential when it comes to, if you work a little bit harder, the luckier you will be. Something that's really helped me with this is try to say yes more than you say no, and be comfortable with being uncomfortable. When you're learning a new skill, be vulnerable and be able to ask for help. Okay, let me share, a real example. When I first started, when I came here to Austin, I really wanted to invest into real estate because that's what everybody was telling me to do. And I was like, okay, but I don't know anything about it. I mean, I've been around it. I kind of have an idea, but I don't know the market. I don't know really how to approach this because every market is different. I could have never invested into real estate the way that I did here in Austin without my realtor. My realtor actually is one of my really good friends. And I never met him before. I met him randomly, through an exchange to get an apartment, and we're still in contact today. We've done many deals together. It's just incredible. Really just be humble and ask for help. The next thing here is don't be a victim. With the world today, everyone has a reason to be a victim. I could be a victim for countless reasons. You could be a victim. Don't fall into that crap. There's nothing stopping you from accomplishing something that you set your mind to. There's no barriers in today. Like we might think that there are, but come on. Right? Don't be a victim. The next thing is take action. You can watch all the YouTube videos in the world. Stop procrastinating. Stop looking at everybody else do it and do it yourself. I was in your shoes, right? I'll use the real estate example. I had no idea what the heck I was doing. And I just, I jumped head first and I knew I was going to make mistakes. I made mistakes. But you know what? Because I worked so hard, I was luckier. I became lucky because I worked so hard. It's an amazing phenomenon. The harder you work, the luckier you'll be. And then really when it comes to that is put yourself in the position to be lucky. Ask for help, inquire, be curious. And if you want to retire early, you have to be different. Be different. I want to share something with you that I've really thought a lot about and that's really helped me through this whole process of achieving Barista F.I.R.E. and getting excited about this next phase of our lives. Because if you watch that other video, you know that Barista F.I.R.E. was never really our ultimate goal. But something that I've been thinking a lot about is a quote from Paula from the Afford Anything podcast. You may know her, you may not know her. I think, she has tons and tons of videos out there, but her main slogan is really what stuck with me. And I got a lot of value out of it, and I want to share it with you. So if you think about it, life, here really comes down to making choices. You can afford anything you want in life, but you can't afford everything. There's a trade-off in life. It really comes down to a give and take. I could buy, for example, sure, I could afford an expensive car, whether that be through debt or buying it right out. Sure, I could make it work. I could go get a 7-year loan and I could buy that new car. I could do it. But that means that I have to give up other things to be able to afford that. It's a give and take. And I've really, really internalized this as my wife and I, we go on our nightly walks. I really thought about this. We could do this, but we couldn't do this. But we could do this, right? And so I choose to afford a rich life of simplicity and happiness on my terms, not on someone else's terms. And you can too. Thanks for watching.
Please subscribe. Please subscribe.
You know what? I think we're gonna be friends. Can everyone say hi to my friend? That's crazy. I just wanted to say thanks. I'm glad you came along, partner.